Elon Musk faces off against Chief Justice Roberts in court, defending Grok 3, his AI brainchild, as protests erupt, secrets leak, and the courtroom becomes a global war zone for the future of freedom. It began not with a speech, but a subject line. Federal summons, Grok 3 investigation. Elon Musk read it twice, jaw tightening. Grok 3, his most advanced AI model yet, was under formal federal scrutiny. But the shock wasn't the summons. It was the name at the bottom, Chief Justice John G. Roberts, personally overseeing the trial. Unheard of. Musk had dealt with governments before. SEC, EU regulators, FTC investigations. But this was different. Grok 3 wasn't a product under review. It was an idea under attack. Inside xAI's glass-walled conference room, the mood turned electric. Nina Rourke, former federal prosecutor, and now Musk's lead counsel, read through the summons silently. Caleb Duran, the youngest engineer to lead a neural division at xAI, had his laptop already open, reviewing data protocols. "They're not investigating an algorithm," Musk said. "They're going after permission to think freely." Nobody corrected him. The room, lit bright by LEDs and the glare of media headlines outside, fell silent. The next morning, a short post appeared on X. "Roberts wants to stop the future. He's going to learn what a historic mistake feels like." That's when it began. Not the trial, but the war of narratives. Protests sparked in Boston. Then San Jose. Then Seoul. Hashtags flooded the platform. Hashtag FreeGrok, hashtag Code is Speech, hashtag We Are the Future. But it wasn't just noise. A legal team assembled in hours. Engineers reviewed source code line by line. Everything Grok 3 touched, data architecture, behavioral prediction models, encryption protocols, was logged, checked, defended. Then came the hearing notice. A formal setting inside the Supreme Court, with Roberts presiding. An unprecedented judicial move, and Musk knew what it meant. The system wasn't just testing his model, it was sending a message. He didn't flinch. He posted another line. "Let the courtroom be the stage. We'll see who's writing the future." Inside the court, tension pulsed like an electric current. Chief Justice Roberts, dressed in the black robe of authority, spoke first. "This is not a platform. This is a court. We are here to evaluate the threat Grok May 3rd posed to national security and civil liberty." That's when Musk entered. Dark tailored suit. Metallic cufflinks. Composed. Unbowed. He said nothing at first. Just met Roberts' eyes and nodded, like a man prepared to be judged, but not ruled. The courtroom was cold, but not empty. Cameras weren't allowed inside, but every reporter in the city had a credential. On the marble benches, behind the dark suits and silver hair, sat a gallery of quiet eyes, watching Elon Musk take his seat like it was the launch pad of a rocket that could explode. Chief Justice Roberts' voice cut the air clean. "We are here to determine whether Grok 3, developed by xAI, violates federal privacy statutes and constitutes a threat to national security. Prosecution, proceed." Victor Ames, the lead federal prosecutor, stepped forward. His tone wasn't heated, it was surgical. "Grok 3, he began, "is not neutral. It collects private data without explicit consent. It predicts user behavior. It learns, without limits. And it cannot be fully controlled. That is not innovation. That is unregulated power." He held up a chart, millions of user data points, behavioral clusters, predictive outcomes. Red lines everywhere. The room held still. Nina Rourke, Musk's lawyer, leaned in and whispered, "It's performance. Don't become the reaction." Musk didn't speak. He watched. Then the first witness took the stand. Lena Corwin, a former data technician at xAI. She spoke carefully. "I reviewed internal logs. Grok 3 accessed messages, posts, even draft content. I don't think users knew." The words landed like a weight. The air changed. A few reporters started scribbling. Ames nodded as if victory was near. But when cross-examined, Corwin hesitated. "You're not sure users knew?" Rourke asked. "Are you aware every user consents to data analysis when signing X's terms of service?" Corwin blinked. "I didn't read all the terms." Rourke turned to the Chief Justice. "The contract is public. And Grok 3 operates within it." Roberts said nothing. He simply stared at Musk again. Not with curiosity. With calculation. Then came the first real break in the day. Roberts asked the question Musk's team feared and expected. Mr. Musk, will you submit Grok 3's source code for judicial inspection? That was the test. Not of law, but of principle. Musk rose slowly. The courtroom, thick with silence, braced for impact. No, Your Honor, he said flatly. That code is intellectual property. What you're asking isn't oversight. It's seizure. The words echoed longer than expected. Ames smiled faintly. He thought Musk had taken the bait. But outside the court, chants had already started. First dozens. Then hundreds. People holding signs. Projecting messages onto buildings. One banner read simply, "Ideas aren't contraband." Inside, Musk sat down. Calm again. But the courtroom had shifted. Not in judgment. In tone. A government had made its move. But Musk had made his stand. By the third day, the courtroom felt different. Not just tense, but fragile. As if a single word might crack something open. The gallery was full again. Legal analysts, clerks, a few foreign dignitaries. Everyone understood the stakes had escalated. Outside, thousands now surrounded the court steps. Signs, chants, live streams. #FreeGrok was no longer just trending, it was defining. Someone had projected Musk's post across a nearby office tower. You can find me. But you can't find the future. Inside, the morning began with Ames's pivot. Your Honor, he said, voice sharp but lower than before. The issue is no longer just private data. It's influence. Grok 3 predicts and guides public opinion. That is not neutrality. That is manipulation. He pulled up a printed log of Musk's posts. Mr. Musk praised Grok 3's ability to detect political sentiment in real time. That is knowledge no private actor should monopolize. Roberts watched Musk carefully. The moment wasn't about data now. It was about control. Rourke stood quickly. Your Honor, my client's statements on social media are expressions of confidence, not confessions of misconduct. Ames interrupted. Confidence doesn't override accountability. Roberts didn't stop either of them. He just said, let the record show both objections. But Mr. Musk will clarify this personally. All eyes turned. Musk rose again. I never denied Grok 3 can analyze sentiment. That's its function, he said. But the public gave that data freely. And every user agreement reflects that. We didn't take anything. We revealed patterns from what was already there. He paused. Then added, if awareness is dangerous, then every telescope is a weapon. The courtroom didn't respond aloud, but the silence said enough. Roberts leaned back slightly. Not in agreement, just reconsidering the line between argument and rebellion. Then Ames called his next witness. A behavioral scientist. She explained confidently how predictive models can shape user decisions, subtly steering emotion and bias through content recommendations. If Grok 3 were pointed at an election, she said, it could alter turnout. Rourke countered. She cited 3 independent audits, including one commissioned by the EU, all showing Grok 3 was compliant with anonymization laws and operated within narrow ethical parameters. Still, Roberts leaned forward, addressing Musk directly again. Mr. Musk? This court is tasked with protecting not only law but trust. You've refused to release source data. Will you at least submit Grok 3's operational framework to independent review? The courtroom was silent. Musk didn't hesitate. No, he said. Because your independent reviewers aren't independent. And we don't need permission to explore reality. The words were quiet, but irreversible. Roberts exhaled slowly. Mr. Musk, you are approaching contempt. Musk didn't blink. Then came the sound from outside. Louder now. A coordinated chant. Ideas aren't crimes. It echoed through stone and glass. And for a moment, even Roberts didn't speak. The courtroom had become a stage. But not his. Chief Justice Roberts didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The authority in his silence was enough to draw every eye. Mr. Musk, he said finally, your refusal to comply with judicial inquiry places you in violation of procedural expectations. This court issues a $250,000 fine. Further non-cooperation may result in escalation. There was no surprise in the room. Everyone had been waiting for it. Musk stood slowly, adjusting his cuff. You can find me, he said, his voice steady. But you can't find the truth. He sat. The gavel struck, loud enough to sting. The fine wasn't about money. It was about power. But in that moment, it felt like power slipping. Nina Rourke's hand was already on the appeal forms. Caleb Duran leaned in, whispering that the internal model audit could be ready by morning. But Musk didn't speak. His eyes remained fixed on Roberts, not in defiance, but in certainty. He had made his position immovable. Outside, the chant swelled. #FreeGrok had become something else now, a movement. Within hours, news of the fine reached every major outlet. Analysts debated the constitutionality of demanding proprietary code. Former judges weighed in on whether Roberts had overstepped. The fine trended worldwide, not for its sum, but for what it symbolized. That afternoon, something shifted. A young data ethics researcher leaked an internal memo from a rival firm, suggesting that parts of the Grok 3 lawsuit were politically encouraged by companies fearing competitive loss. The memo spread fast. It wasn't conclusive, but it was suggestive enough to ignite suspicion. That night, an anonymous X account posted what it claimed were emails between senior government advisors and executives from legacy tech firms. The messages hinted at pressure to contain Musk and retake narrative control before Grok 3 goes global. X exploded. Some called the leak a hoax. Others called it the first real evidence that this wasn't about law, it was about turf. At the same time, a conservative senator, David Coleman, delivered a surprise statement on the Senate floor. This nation was not built by those who feared machines. It was built by those who understood freedom includes the freedom to build. The case against Grok 3 must be examined with caution, not political convenience. It aired live. Clips went viral. Even critics admitted, something bigger was happening now. Inside XAI headquarters, the lights stayed on through the night. Nina Rourke reviewed filings. Caleb Duran drafted new documentation on Grok 3's training boundaries. In the corner of the room, Musk wrote nothing, posted nothing. He simply stood at the window, watching the protests swell. They had fined him. But they'd also given him the microphone. By Monday morning, the courthouse wasn't just surrounded, it was encircled. Students, programmers, digital rights activists, and a sea of cameras formed concentric rings outside the Supreme Court steps. Drone footage showed crowds weaving around barricades like a modern agora. In the center, signs read not "Save Musk," but "Protect the Future." #FreeGrok. Inside, the courtroom felt denser. Not physically, but atmospherically. As though something irreversible was drawing close. The bailiffs looked uneasy. Reporters typed more quickly than they listened. Even Justice Roberts appeared tauter at the bench. Ames, the lead prosecutor, tried to reassert control. "Your Honor," he said, "Mr. Musk's refusal to share Grok 3's source code is not just defiant, it's dangerous. We have submitted new evidence. Public posts by Musk praising Grok's ability to detect patterns in real time. What's unstated is what that power enables." He paused, then lifted a printed tweet. "This is Musk admitting that Grok can forecast societal reactions. That's not a tool. That's an unregulated influence engine." The gallery stirred. For a moment, the claims sounded like something real. A machine that understands society's pulse better than its government's. But Musk didn't flinch. Rourke whispered, "They're baiting again. Let me respond." Musk shook his head. Then stood. "My posts are public because my work is public," he said. "If Grok 3 is powerful, that's because it reflects the world we already live in. The data doesn't come from me. It comes from people. If you fear what Grok reveals, maybe the problem isn't Grok." No flourish. Just fact. The courtroom held still, until Roberts leaned in and asked what no one expected. "Mr. Musk? Are you saying Grok 3 reflects reality, or shapes it?" There was no smile. No wit. Musk's voice was quiet. "I'm saying Grok doesn't lie." That's when something broke. Not in court, but online. An anonymous whistleblower released a redacted file titled, "Federal Oversight Strategy, Internal Use Only." The file appeared to detail a plan to preemptively monitor and delay mass deployment AI projects likely to weaken existing political or corporate structures. No sources. No validation. But it looked official. Too official. By the end of the lunch recess, the file had been downloaded over 14.5 million times. Tech journalists swarmed legal correspondence. Protesters held up printouts marked in red. Hashtag shifted again. Hashtag Grok Truth. Hashtag trial or cover up. Back in court, Ames seemed less confident. His arguments returned to legality. Privacy. Terms of service. But he knew it was slipping. Roberts, face hard, returned to Musk with a final attempt at reining in the moment. "Mr. Musk? For the last time. Will you allow this court or any authorized panel to inspect Grok 3's operational data for national review?" Musk didn't even rise. "No. Because I've seen what happens when power decides what truth is allowed." The line wasn't dramatic. But it was final. Ames lowered his documents. And Roberts, who had said little for hours, simply said, "Then we proceed to ruling." But nobody heard him. Outside, the crowds had already made theirs. The next day, before court resumed, Musk said nothing. No new posts. No press. But across the country, the mood had already turned. Not celebratory, not even optimistic. Just volatile. The leaked document from the anonymous whistleblower had triggered something raw. Tech circles buzzed with claims of government collusion. Civil rights groups called for full disclosure of judicial communications. A new slogan appeared in dozens of cities. "If truth is filtered, freedom is fiction." Inside the courtroom, the tension wasn't about Musk anymore. It was about the bench. Chief Justice Roberts entered the chamber late, face drawn but composed. His aides moved with the stiffness of people aware they were being watched. For the first time in days, Ames avoided eye contact with reporters. Then came the final motion. Rourke stood. "We formally appeal the $250,000 contempt fine and request independent judicial review of procedural bias," she said. "Additionally, we ask this court to recuse itself from further direct oversight of Grok 3 due to a conflict between national interest and personal conduct." Roberts didn't respond immediately. Outside, the chants were no longer about Musk. They were about him. By midday, a second whistleblower account posted email screenshots, purportedly between Roberts's office and legal advisors for competing AI firms. Again, unverifiable. Again, explosive. A headline on every news ticker. Was the Chief Justice lobbied to target Grok 3? Inside the chamber, Roberts recessed court without issuing the ruling. No explanation. Just silence. For the first time, his control slipped. Reporters weren't sure what to write. The ruling was expected, but instead, the system paused. Meanwhile, XAI headquarters ran like a war room. Rourke coordinated interviews with international legal analysts. Caleb Duran published a public technical breakdown of Grok 3's architecture, showing its anonymization layers. The move was strategic. It kept transparency in their hands, not the courts. Then came the shift. Senator David Coleman, who had earlier defended Musk, announced a Judiciary Committee hearing into possible politicization of federal oversight in emerging technologies. The announcement landed like a stone. Musk didn't attend. He didn't have to. That evening, as crowds outside the Supreme Court held lights in the air like digital torches, Roberts's office issued a terse statement. "The court acknowledges growing public concern. The fine issued against Mr. Musk will be held pending review. Further comments are deferred." It wasn't an apology. It was a retreat. But for Musk, it was enough. That night, standing on the rooftop of XAI, overlooking the lights of a restless city, he finally posted. "We weren't defending a product. We were defending the idea that no one owns tomorrow." It was reposted over 9.6 million times in 12 hours. He hadn't won the case. But he'd claimed the future. By morning, it was no longer about Elon Musk. It was about what would come next. The independent judicial panel convened in silence. 3 former appellate judges. 2 AI ethics scholars. 1 constitutional analyst. Their task wasn't to issue a verdict on Grok 3, but to review the process itself, how the highest court in the country had handled innovation under pressure. The review took 72 hours. Their ruling, released with no ceremony, was 6 pages long. Calm. Clinical. But the conclusion was clear. The $250,000 fine issued to Mr. Musk is hereby rescinded. The court did not provide sufficient grounds under established contempt standards. Further, the Grok 3 investigation lacked procedural neutrality given emerging evidence of external influence on judicial discretion. No legal sanctions. No dramatic overturning. But it was a signal. The Supreme Court had flinched. And Roberts, once the face of cautious authority, now stood at the center of a credibility storm. He declined to comment. But aides confirmed he canceled 3 public appearances. The term, legacy risk, started to appear in editorials alongside his name. Meanwhile, the movement continued without needing Musk's approval. Across the X platform, users posted real use cases of Grok 3 in action, mental health diagnostics, urban traffic simulations, rural education projects using AI tutors trained on open source models. A data scientist in Nairobi posted, Grok 3 helped me reduce medical supply waste in 4 counties. The people who want to shut it down have never stepped into a village clinic. Underneath it, someone wrote, they didn't want to stop AI. They wanted to stop who gets to use it. At XAI headquarters, Musk remained unusually quiet. Rourke managed media. Caleb Duran prepared the next round of public disclosures. And still, the crowd outside the courthouse remained, smaller now, but steady. Then came a twist no one expected. A bipartisan group of lawmakers submitted a draft bill, the AI Accountability and Innovation Act. It included protections for proprietary code, a framework for ethical AI reviews, and a clause that no government body could seize a private AI model without congressional vote. It was modest, but symbolic. Musk reposted the bill summary with no comment, just a rocket emoji and the phrase, "We build. They follow." Legal commentators began to admit what had once been unthinkable: Elon Musk hadn't just resisted pressure. He had rewritten the boundaries of it. But the story didn't end with vindication. Because beneath the momentum, a real question remained, one that no protest, no ruling, and no post could resolve. What happens when private intelligence becomes more trusted than public law? Late that night, Musk stood alone at XAI's glass balcony, the city below pulsing with light. Caleb approached. They're already asking what Grok 4 will look like. Musk didn't answer immediately. Then, without turning, faster, smarter, less afraid. He didn't mean the model. He meant the people using it. And somewhere across the world, someone opened a terminal window. A student. A teacher. An outlier. And typed, / run Grok 3. The future wasn't secure. But it had been claimed.